Kelly Taylor Ryan, and welcome to Mainely Unspoken, a show dedicated to searching for the truth and giving you information that you need to know. Today we're going to be talking about juries and the power of juries. Many people don't realize that they can judge the law as well as the fact. And with us today is Don Christen, who is the coordinator for the Fully Informed Jury Association, which is a national organization.
Yeah, I'm the spokesman in Maine.
Great.
Thanks for having me here.
Well, thanks for coming. So what do people really need to know about juries, and what are they talking about when they say you have the right to judge the law?
Well, the first thing they should realize is that if they get a call to the jury, they should go and accept that willingly and be proud to sit on that and know that they might have a chance to help some poor citizen who might be in trouble with the law unjustly. Then again, they might have a chance to use the justice system and be part of it and learn a little something and have that for next time. But if they get that chance, they should utilize it and not want to just get out of it, so to speak.
So it's important to do your jury duty and go.
That's right.
Right? But unless you know what your rights are as a juror, what your responsibilities are, you might not help people that are being prosecuted.
That's right. That's right. The Fully Informed Jury Association lets people know that they have the right, as you said, to judge the law as well as the facts. And the facts in the case might be quite clear, but the law might be something that they don't agree with. And if it is a wrong law, then it's their duty as a citizen to get onto that jury and utilize the system to get rid of any bad laws that are on the books. That's what the whole system was about when it was first founded.
So in other words, a lot of legislators might be pressured by what the lobbyists want instead of what the ordinary person wants. And so laws may get passed because of lobbyists, and maybe by saying no to bad laws, by vetoing basically a law in the jury room, they're giving a strong message to the legislators that we want this law changed.
That's right. That's right. That's the last arm of the judicial branch, actually, is the people on the jury, if the jury is exercised. A lot of times it doesn't go to a jury trial because people are afraid, but they shouldn't be afraid to take what they feel is a bad law to court, because they might have sympathy from those that are on the jury. The judge has nothing to say about the decision, and the prosecutor can't do anything about it either. You can't be judged or penalized for any decision that you make, provided it's lawful. You have to take an oath and swear to do certain things on the jury, but some of those things that they ask you to do are in direct conflict with what the Constitution says. So it's kind of a gray area, so to speak, but you have to use your judgment and your conviction. You can't leave the jury, if you're on a jury, and go home after the trial is over and say, well, you know, I made a mistake. You have to sit there and judge the person for what you feel is right or wrong. And you can't take that back tomorrow. So that's what we try to tell people and that sort of thing once you get on to a trial or teaching people about the juries.
But a judge won't agree with that, or will an attorney agree with that? Because I don't know of any judge or attorney that's saying, you are more powerful than the judges. The people in the jury are the most powerful people in that courtroom. And they have to decide whether the law is a bad law or a good law, or whether it's a good law and being misapplied. No judge is going to tell the jury that they have that much power.
That's right. But in fact they do, and they used to do that prior to 1963, when the Vietnam War was really strong, and the draft resistors and the Dodgers were happening back then, and they were using jury nullification to find out that some of these people were not bad people, and although they had broken what the law said, the juries were setting them free because they didn't agree with the war either, and they thought that was wrong.
Jury nullification is when the jury decides a law is bad and they're not going to apply it to this particular case.
That's right.
So the person may be guilty of what the government said was wrong, but the jury believes that the law is wrong and this man should not face, or woman should not face prison time because of that.
Yeah.
So during the war, draft dodgers often were found not guilty because they found that the law that they were breaking was not a correct law.
Well, that's how the people felt. And like I said, prior to this 1963, the judges used to inform the juries of their rights of judging the law and the fact, and they stopped doing that because of that situation.
Just because of Vietnam, because so many people were letting these draft dodgers off.
Yeah, and they had to do something. You know, their control was slipping.
So did they actually make a statute? Did they pass a law that the juries no longer have the power of jury nullification?
No, they just stopped informing them at the trial.
They just stopped informing them?
Yes. Prior to 1963, almost every trial, criminal trial, they were told that you have the right to judge the law and the fact.
So isn't that the same as lying? I mean, if you're not telling somebody that they need to know, isn't that the same as a lie? Or tampering with the jury? Isn't the judge tampering with the jury when he doesn't say, hey, you have this power?
Well, I might say that, and others like me might agree, but those that are in control at this point would say no. The statute is every bit as good as the Constitution, and they control the statute, and they have to obey the Constitution, you know, once we, the people, hold them to it. And we have the right through the jury system, and that's all there is to it. They can say what they want to, but you as a jurist have to hold the line and vote not guilty if that in fact is how you feel. Like I said, you can't come back and say, well, I was wrong and you know, I'm sorry next day, because somebody's, you know, going to be in jail or something for that if you do.
And when you do go to court, the judge decides what evidence is heard, right?
That's right.
And the judge decides basically everything the jury can hear. Does the jury ever get a chance to ask questions of the defendant at all? Do you know?
No.
You would know that?
Not that I know of. But during the trial itself, you as a defendant get up on the stand, you have a right to tell your story, and you also have closing statements, which you can pretty much tell the jury their power, and that's what you do. You stand up there and tell them if you're presiding for yourself, if you are your own attorney.
And the judge wouldn't gavel you down?
No.
He would allow?
You can't say, well, I'd like you to perform jury nullification here. What you have to do is stand up there and say, okay, you people are very important here. And you're more important at this point than the fellow sitting up there on the bench or the prosecutor sitting over here at the other bench. You people are entrusted with the power to find me either innocent or guilty here. And there's no one that can judge you for judging me that way, no matter what your judgment is, and you can't be punished for it.
But they're not going to believe.
Oh, yes, they are.
You think they'll believe?
Oh, the people, you know, if you are in earnest and they have any credibility for you at all throughout the trial, then they have the right to believe you at that point also, you know. And they're going to sit back there and say, that's right, you know, I can vote how I want to, and there's nobody that can judge me or do anything to me for it.
So the power of jury nullification goes back to the Magna Carta.
Yes.
And our founding fathers, matter of fact, that's how we got freedom of speech, freedom of religion. It was based on that, because before that, the government would prosecute the jurors if they voted the wrong way, right?
Right.
And so when our founding fathers started this country, in order to keep government in check, they gave the final power to the ordinary citizen.
That's right.
And you're saying up until 1963, that worked.
That's right.
And then after that, the government got greedier and decided we're not even going to tell the people their rights as the power they have as jurors, so we can even gain more control.
They couldn't stand the fact that the people were no longer going for their war. I mean, they knew that this war was wrong at that point, and a lot of the people that said, well, I'm not going to be part of it, were getting sympathy from the jurists. Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Well, you must be right about 1963, because in 1968, the Supreme Court said that the purpose of the jury is to prevent oppression by the government.
That's right. That's the last arm or the last branch of the government, is the people through the jury system, because that's where all cases go, whether the district attorney is taking to court or the government's taking to court.
But I heard there's all sorts of jurors being thrown off the jury if they know about jury nullification, or if they talk about jury nullification.
For instance, we hand out a lot of pamphlets during different trials, and if we give people that are going into the courtroom, doesn't matter whom they are, we don't try to pick the jurist out or anything like that, but you give the public the information of jury nullification and around and about the trial dates or docket cases or what have you. And if a jurist happens to get one of those papers, the court bailiff upstairs will try to take it away from them, because they don't want them to know what's inside that paperwork. So we tell the people that, and a lot of them immediately stuff it in their coat so that nobody can take that away from them, because that's one thing they're not going to stand for. I have a right to do this, and I have a right to read anything I want to. So once you let the people know, but if they blindly walk up the stairs and the bailiff or one of the court officers sees them with a jury nullification paperwork, they're going to grab it. So that's a hard thing when you're trying to inform the public, especially right at somebody's trial. But that's basically the way alcohol prohibition was ended, was that the people decided that we'd had enough of this and they couldn't get convictions through the court. So the courts had no choice, or the legislators had no choice, but to change the law if they couldn't get any convictions. And that's why alcohol prohibition was turned around.
Is that right?
That's right.
So back then, they weren't getting the convictions.
That's right.
Oh, and that's the purpose. And there are other bad laws that should not be on the books today.
Obviously.
Laws that we, the people, really don't want.
Oh.
But for political reasons, for control of the ordinary citizens, are there. And this is the only way that we can get them off the books.
That's right. That's right.
Wow, that's something. But it's not taught in the schools.
No.
Were you taught this in your civics class?
Oh, no. We had to learn this on our own.
And how did you find out about this?
Through some pamphlets I got from the Fully Informed Jury Association. We have a lot of information, and that's just part of it. A lot of the things you talked about, was starting with the Magna Carta, were a lot of that was with forfeitures, and the people stormed the king's castle because they were tired of the king taking their properties. And that's what's happening in a lot of cases in America, although they have just changed a lot of the forfeiture laws and come to the people's side at this point, that now they have to prove that you did something wrong before they take your stuff. So that was way back for King George in that era, and now it's right back at us, in the 2000s.
What do you think about the Maine government?
We've got some good people out there. We have our own laws, which some of them conflict a little with the United States laws, but that's okay, because we have our own constitution and we're our own state, and we're different than Texas or California, and the federal government expects that we're going to have some different laws, so they have allowed for that. We do have our own constitution, but it's pretty much basically tailored after the U.S. Constitution. So,
what do you think about the court system in Maine?
I think it's, at this point, a travesty in some cases. As far as I'm concerned, the child protection services, the things that our organization is into, and some other things are a problem with the courts, and they don't even seem that there is a problem. And the people see it every day in the newspapers, and everybody's talking, but nothing seems to happen.
Are you talking about like DHS? And
yeah. Child protection and that sort of thing. We have a need for some of these laws, but they've overstepped their bounds in a lot of areas. And the DHS is one big one, I guess. But as far as the people's rights, I think the war itself that has been declared on the people, which is the drug war, is the most harmful thing that we have in society today. And it puts us against them. It makes for having jury nullification, and it makes for problems between normal people who would be law-abiding citizens on the average, that are looked down upon by authorities because of how they believe.
So tell me, your views of the drug war then against the people?
Well, the war itself is against the people. It has been a failure for years and years. They just keep pumping more and more into it, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. If they can't see that there's a problem with that, there's something wrong here. If it was a business that was a money-making entity, they'd be bankrupt by now, and they'd be out of business. And there's no doubt about it. But
So you're talking about marijuana laws?
no,
or
the whole drug
cocaine?
war. The whole drug war. Not that I agree with drugs whatsoever, but there's a problem here. The war itself has caused more problems than the drugs at this point.
In what way?
Well, the biggest one might be gang wars in the cities. We don't see it so prevalent up here in Maine, but we don't have the crime that some of these other states do too, you know. As a matter of fact, you know, if there was a little bit more crime in Maine, maybe they'd have more to do than go looking for pot and bother people. But the cities, they have these problems, and the gang wars and the turf wars are just one major part of it. If the war was over and they'd stopped all this money-making scheme, which is whether it's sale of drugs or the police machine or the prison machine, it doesn't make any difference. We'll see a big difference here on the laws themselves, on the way people are treated, the money that's spent, and actually in my, as far as I know, the scale of drugs would probably go down because there'll be more people in the know of things instead of wanting to experiment.
Do you think too many people are in jail because of marijuana laws?
Maine has become a little bit more lax. A lot of states, it's still a felony to even possess marijuana. For one joint, you can go to jail. Maine has become a little lax, and I believe some of the district attorneys and some of the law enforcement around here know that this is not quite the problem that it's being purported to be, and a lot of them are kind of turning their heads looking the other way at this point.
So they're doing sort of like jury nullification by not looking at it.
Exactly. That's not to say everybody, and there's some police that...
But so they can turn their heads if their neighbor is doing it.
Selective enforcement.
Selective. So if they find someone they don't like, well, we have this law in the books that if you possess marijuana, it's a felony. So then they bring them for trial, and then they stack the jury by saying, you have to come to a conclusion based on the law. You must find this person guilty. If we prove that he was in possession of marijuana, then he goes to jail. So in jury nullification, they could say, well, you know, one of our state reps or one of our state senators is smoking and he's not going to jail, so why should we convict this person? He hasn't hurt anybody. He just had one little joint. I don't know. Is that kind of what you want to use jury nullification for? No. Okay.
But that's the law enforcement's selective enforcement, and that's exactly what's happening. You know, they watch, you know, they could watch 100 people go by knowing that they smoke or what have you, and then just because, you know, they might not have something to do or may not like this guy's car or what have you, they'll stop one person out of 100, you know. But because you know there's a heck of a lot more people doing it than that one person. Simple as that.
And also, if it's a friend, they're not going to say anything. Usually. I don't know. Maybe they will.
Well, they might. You know, there's some good, decent, honest police officers out there. And at that point, I'd like to think that they'd probably do something about that, too. Even if they didn't arrest them or cite them, but at least, you know, say, hey, look, you know, don't make me look bad, and next time I'm going to have to do something. But there's some other people, you know, just like in any other job, that, yep, they turn their head the other way, and then when it suits their need, they go and pinch people.
Now, do you speak to the police about jury nullification and the rights of a juror?
We speak about everything. As far as listening, I don't think they listen too much. A lot of them listen on the legalization end of it, because there's an awful lot of police that agree with us, but their hands are tied because they have a job to do. That's what they say. But they do listen to us, and they don't shrug us off. When it comes time to talk about other things, we don't get the reception, forfeitures or anything like that, because they make their money at that. You know, if they can get somebody's car or house or something like that and sell it, that's, you know, they get half the profits or whatever. You know.
They get half the profits?
Oh, they get some money out of this. Don't you think they don't?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, they do.
So who gets, so if you're saying if a police officer,
No, the department gets the money.
oh, the department.
But it doesn't make any difference because that's more fun and games for them. They might buy a vet with all the money they have and then show, the kids in the DARE program, well, this is what the police officers have now. Because what they used to do is they'd bust somebody and take their car away through the Forfeiture Act and then come driving through with the new vet they stole from some supposed drug dealer, and then the kids say, oh, drug dealers have all that? So it blew up in their face. And we knew that would. It's just a reverse psychology kind of thing. The kids are not stupid.
Don, what would you like the people of Maine to really know about the jury?
The jury is something that you should try to get on if indeed you want to help somebody out in any manner of jury nullification that you see fit. Of course, jury nullification is not for the charge of murder, maybe. If that might be the facts you want to judge that on. If the person's a murderer, that's not right, period. And that's not what jury nullification is for. The nullification process is for laws that are in fact questionable and that we don't agree with. So if you have a chance to get onto a jury, and help some citizen out or get rid of a law that you feel is bad, then that's what you should do. And if you can do that, you should realize how to do that. You should go there and not deliberate, not tell anybody why you feel that the person is innocent, because if you say that the law is bad, you come right out and tell them I don't agree with the law, then the judge in the case could say that you violated your oath as a jurist, and you could be thrown off the jury, and they can put somebody else on there that would in fact convict the person. So you've just did yourself a disservice, and the person that you're trying to help a disservice by saying something like that.
So you're saying know the laws, but because the government isn't always honest, you got to keep this information to yourself when you're in the jury room and not show that you're very educated about this. Because jurors do not have to explain why they vote guilty or not guilty.
That's right.
They may be asked, but they don't have to explain. And if they explain, they could cause themselves some trouble. Not because they're doing anything illegal, but because of the political games of government,
That's right.
government control. And also people on the jury might not even agree with jury nullification, and they could turn you in also.
That's right. That's right.
So
they'll send a note to the judge saying that so-and-so on the jurist or jurist number 12 says that they are finding the person not guilty because the law is wrong. And the judge will just come right in and have you thrown off. That's what was done in a recent California case. And you have to be smart, like you said, about how you act when you're in the jury room.
And yet the Supreme Court says that the purpose of the jury is to prevent oppression, and that jury nullification is accepted.
Yeah, but if you went to the Supreme Court tomorrow, they give you a different ruling.
They'd give you a different ruling?
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
At this point, we don't know what the heck they're doing because...
So what do you think our founding fathers insisted on trial by jury? And it's a bad thing if you waive your trial by jury, isn't it?
That's right.
Because that's your last ace in trying to get people, ordinary people, to look at a situation and give justice.
That's right.
It's not a court of law, but it should be a court of justice. What is right and what is wrong?
Yeah. If you're innocent, you should never, ever give in to a plea bargain system because, you're going to get some sympathy. If anybody on that jury thinks you are innocent, you got 12 people there. But if you're guilty, it's in your best interest to take a plea bargain. But if you're not guilty of anything, you should go to trial. And don't take it to the judge because he's there for technical things. The jury's there to listen to your story.
And they have all the power.
And they have the power.
Even though they don't know it.
When you give it to the judge, he has the power if you want to judge trial. But if you go to the jury, then those 12 people are... The jury has the right at that point for your innocence, to give your innocence or to show you that you are guilty. And the judge has nothing to say about it except to pronounce that after they give him the verdict. And the prosecutor has nothing to say except for during the trial to try to convince them that you're guilty.
So the only way that you can educate the public right now is by giving out pamphlets having people go to the fully informed jury website.
Uh-huh. And shows like this.
And shows like this. Is there, I know you're from, what part of Maine are you from, Don?
Central Maine. I'm from Madison.
Okay. Is there an active group here in the Portland area?
No. No, there's very few people that really know about their rights. And this organization is a long ways away. We've been passing pamphlets out for almost 10 years now.
Well, I know that one of the state reps in New Hampshire, Marple, I think, M-A-R-P-L-E,
Yep.
I know he actually tried to pass a law in New Hampshire stating that the judge must inform the jury about jury nullification. And I don't think it got passed. It got pretty close,
Yeah.
but it didn't quite pass.
Well, they have to keep trying and drum up some more support, because they'll get it. The thing is the power of the people, and that is what the jury nullification power is. And it's to get rid of bad laws. It's not to get rid of laws that are just, because we need those laws. We need those for society. But the laws that are just unjust and putting people in jail for no reason, or taking people's property, or any other reason that they feel, they have the power, if they accept it, and get onto a jury.
So this isn't gonna, people aren't gonna use jury nullification for rape or for robbing somebody's house or for murder.
Those are clearly something that's wrong there.
Clearly something that's wrong, okay? But things that the state has, for instance, I'm wearing a seatbelt, all right? There's a seatbelt law if I'm not wearing a seatbelt, and I get fined for it. A jury may think, telling a grown human being that they have to wear a seatbelt is ridiculous, and this is a bad law. Maybe some people feel that way. Is that?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so it's the laws that the state make up to control people.
Yeah. They come up with 1,100 laws a year at the State House in Maine, say nothing about the federal level. And they say, that a person being stupid of the law is no excuse for you breaking the law. But those people don't even know what they're working on up there. You can't keep up with 1,100 new laws every year.
They sign things in the law without reading them. I mean, that happens all the time.
Well, they have aides that are supposed to look into those things. But you're right. They don't know what half the stuff they're voting on is. But
and that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And again, that's good. Why we need jury nullification.
Exactly.
So the ordinary people can say, you made a mistake. Did you actually read that law? You better go back and reread it.
Yeah. So what happens is exactly what you just said. Some group gets in there and they start pushing hard on it. Maybe they got a lot of money, who knows? And then a few of the legislators aren't paying attention, and they sneak something by, But then they fail to act on it in a few years, and it stays on the books. That's how you get rid of that. The people just say, no, enough's enough.
Every time it comes to trial, they say
right.
no, just like the prohibition you said. That's how they got rid of it.
That's how they get rid of it.
And what law would you like to see knocked off the books?
Well, I'd like to see the prohibition of marijuana ended, obviously, but there's probably a few more. The forfeiture laws are just horrendous at this point. You could be in an airport now with some money going to buy plants like this one fellow was, and you got to have cash to do this. And he was going to a greenhouse to buy his yearly supply of seedlings. He has a greenhouse, and gets a good deal from him, and he goes out and does it, and he gets his money stolen from him at the airport before he even leaves. And that was a big thing. It was over $90,000 he had on him, and he didn't even do any drugs whatsoever, but they didn't care. They just took his money, and he had to go in and fight to get it back. And
Did he get it back?
Yeah, he got it back, but it took years, And then the litigation to get the money back probably cost him more than, but then he has to sue him to get his money back on that. Of course, it's unreasonable.
And it hurts people's lives. He's an innocent man trying to do business, and they take his money away,
Yeah.
and that's bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Don, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Jury nullification, the fully informed jury. The website has been up on the screen, as well as the phone number. They have this wonderful little pamphlet, talk about jury veto power, that will explain everything that we are trying to talk about during the half hour. and I strongly recommend that you call them up or email them and get this pamphlet, so if you're ever called to the jury, you'll know the right thing to do. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.